We're the bereavement and donor support team, well, part of it, from Lancashire Teaching Hospitals, and Royal Preston is one of our sites. And it's easier to put on a badge than Lancashire Teaching Hospitals. We also cover Chorley. The reason we thought we'd share our stories is because we're Sage and Time facilitators, but we also use the model every day, without fail, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the majority, although not all of our interactions with people that are bereaved, are on the telephone.
I'm a bereavement support nurse, and a lot of my work involves attending acute areas for sudden and unexpected deaths or expected deaths. And one particular that I remember, which is quite a sad and a shocking case, but I just remember that the model fit really well when I went to this family. It was a young mum whose baby had just died that morning. I think the baby was about 10 weeks old, and it was one of a twin. And when I went into the room, I was probably about 18 months in post, so still a bit nervous on entry, but I remember thinking, use Sage and Time, use Sage and Time. So I went in, and the first thing I did was introduce myself. We were already in a private area, and the first thing I said to her was, I empathised and said, what are your concerns at the moment? There must be a lot running through your mind. What are your concerns? And she came out instantly with, she was concerned for the remaining twin, that had something wrong with it as well, because this had happened so suddenly. So I listened to her, gathered all the concerns, lots of empathy throughout. And then it was really relevant to explore her support network. So because of what she'd been through, and that she was going to need support in the next few months, years, weeks. So we talked about who she had around and how they could help. And although the father and the father of a child and her partner was with her, he was quite disconnected, and he was kind of with the other twin. So it was more of a discussion with me and Mum. So we talked at length who she had and how she could utilise them in the coming weeks and days. And then I asked her, got to the you, what do you think would help? And she was like, I don't know really, everything's a bit foggy, it's all sudden, it's too much to take in. And then I was like, is there something I can do? She was like, you could go and get me a doctor and get the other twin checked over. So we did. But I just remember it fit really, really well, and she wanted me to stay with her for the rest of the day, which I did. But it was just textbook. I used a lot of elements of Sage and Time for lots of different situations, but that one, for me, I used every single stage of the model.
Like Jenny, I'm one of the bereavement and donor support nurses at Lancashire Teaching Hospitals, and as well as being called to sudden and unexpected deaths in all areas of the hospitals, we also make courtesy calls to every bereaved family. We'll offer them tissue donation if that's an option. If it's not, we'll just provide a bereavement follow-up call and all of the information that they need, among other things. And the story that springs to mind when I think about using Sage and Time probably only happened a couple of weeks ago. I'd rung a lady whose father had died on our transitional unit, where people are supposed to be medically fit for discharge, and he died really quite suddenly in the night, so I was ringing her the next day. As soon as she answered the phone, she was audibly distressed, as you would expect, but she was almost like manic, panicked, just didn't know where to start. It was all overwhelming for her. So I started using Sage and Time with her. I asked her, I empathised and asked her what concerns have you got going around in your mind at the moment, and she listed several about funeral plans and solicitors and not having people around. But then she let me know that her mum was actually on the same ward that her dad had died on, and she was really worried about her mum, who'd started to become quite confused recently, and she was concerned about her health and how she was going to cope following her father's death. So I went through the model, asked her what she thought would help. She'd listed several things that she could well do that was within her power to sort out. I asked her what I could do to help, and she asked me to go and see her mum as a bereavement nurse and see how she was doing. So we agreed that, summarised it. We both knew exactly what it was we were going to be doing. And you went, didn't you, and saw the lady that afternoon. So it worked really well, because I think she felt reassured that she had a plan. She knew what she needed to do. She knew what she needed to do, what her concerns were, and how she could fix them herself to some extent. And I think she felt reassured that we were working with her to help her to do it. And I felt like I'd done something as well, which is always a good thing.